let's start with Haaland then, shall we, Janusz? What are we looking at here? 34th goal in the Premier League, his 50th of the season. He's now equaled the Premier League records of both Andrew Cole and Alan Shearer. First question is, what does he have that previous big-name Premier League strikers and Premier League goal scorers didn't have? I'm talking the likes of Shearer, Cole, Rooney, Thierry Henry. What does Haaland have that they didn't?
Well, I think they all had great teams, but I think we have to say that he does have a great team, right? I mean, that's first and foremost. I mean, I suspect that he'd be scoring goals just about everywhere. I don't know if, at that rate. And certainly his relationship with Kevin De Bruyne is flourishing. And that's very, very important now to get that sort of service all the time. Although, I think he's one of those that you could make the case that, he is scoring goals sometimes by himself. He does need help, as we all know it, and we've complained about that. But I think the most important thing is he has hunger, power, strength, and something that very few people talk about, his work ethic, right? I mean, that's incredible because, yesterday, just watching the game, I was thinking, I mean, what else can we possibly say about him that haven't been said? And that's not extremely obvious to everybody, right? You don't have to be an expert. Everybody can see that. And his work ethic, to me, is incredible. What he does defensively and trying to win the ball back and pressing and counter pressing. He's one of those, at times. Now, City is a very good pressing team when they choose to, right? And then they know when to pick their times as well. But I've watched him at times doing it all by himself, starting and finishing the pressing as well, almost encouraging everybody to say, let's go, even though, usually as a striker, you usually get a shout from behind. It's like this, I remember playing, in all formation that there are good times and bad times to start pressing. And very often we used to laugh at these players. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this by yourself? We're not ready. We're not in a position to trap, or, on the sideline or wherever it may be. But he does it himself. And that's something that I think we have to pay attention, other than scoring goals, because he does that at an incredible rate. So just hunger, I think, wanting to prove everybody wrong how good he is. And he has done that. And he made us all look silly. All of us. I don't think there's one person that at one point or another didn't look for faults. And you know why that happens? Because I've been one of them. When you see somebody almost so perfect in terms of finishing, you always wanted to bring him down a little bit. You always looking, well, why? And I've done it. Remember, you and I have talked about it. And some of it is always true, that in combination play, maybe he's not as good as others. But I think that drives him, as we can see it. And by his own admission, think about it. I mean, he still thinks, for his size, that he needs to be much, much better in the air in terms of finishing and scoring headers and all that. And you know what? I think he'll get there, because, knowing your weaknesses and openly talking about him, it's not easy, right? Because you're given everybody a reason to say, well, he's not good in the air, or he's not as good as he should be. So he is superb, no doubt.
Okay, so you've said the things that he's admitted that maybe he can work on. So let's flip that question then. What does Haaland not have that those big name before him, Premier League strikers and goal scorers, did?
Well, I mean, as always, he has to prove in the Premier League that he's going to be a winner all times. I don't think there's anything missing for as young as he is. I mean, think about it. I mean, he's now just in the beginning of his career. Look how young he is. I mean, when it's all said and done this season, he's already going to have a trophy, maybe 2, maybe 3. You had a team that consistently gets better with 1 or 2 players, right? I mean, one of the few teams in the world that cycle never ends. And that's not easy. We've seen that with Manchester United. We've seen that with Arsenal. We're seeing that with Liverpool to a degree. We see it with Bayern Munich. We see it with PSG. We see it with the big Barcelona, with the biggest teams in the world. And yet he's on a team that just adds 1 or 2 players and continues to drive. So I don't think there's anything that he's missing right now, even if I compared him to everybody else. Because how do you compare him to Thierry Henry, for example? I mean, it's impossible, and it's kind of silly. I mean, they're totally different players, right? I mean, he's never going to have what Thierry Henry's had. It's impossible. He's not going to learn those skills. Of course, the one-on-one ability, gliding through the midfield if he picks it up deep and beating 3 or 4 players and scoring a wonderful goal. It's just not going to happen. So I don't think I don't think it's even right for us to mention it and to make it seem like he should be better at that, because it's not going to happen.
We spoke to Karl-Heinz Riedler, the former Borussia Dortmund striker himself, about Erling Haaland, and he was talking about what he's seen from him in the Premier League. He said he's never seen anything like it in terms of a player coming to the Premier League and doing that. Would you agree?
Yes, I mean, it's difficult because if I mean, you've seen what he's done as a youth player, you've seen what he's done. I mean, he was challenging at 18, 19, 20, he was challenging Robert Lewandowski for the title 2 or 3 straight years. I mean, and this was already Robert Lewandowski at his absolute best on a team like Bayern Munich that were winning absolutely everything for 10 years straight and, winning the Champions League. And Borussia Dortmund, always a fight with Bayern Munich, but you always knew that they're going to be second best. And he was Lewandowski driving that team at that age. So it's that. I think it's that incredible, to add to everything that I've said, incredible maturity for such an early age. I mean, imagine coming to a league like Premier League and making it look not only easy, but just adapting to that league so incredibly well. And as I've said, it's easy to do it on a, you'd like to think that it's easy to do it on a team like Manchester City, but why did Gabriel Jesus didn't do it, right? So it's all relevant how we look at it. He stepped in. There were some doubts because there were always going to be doubts when you come at a young age from a different country. And, he showed everybody that, look, I can do this, no problem.
So Manchester City are now top of the table after that hard-fought win over Fulham. For the first time since February 17th, they sit on top. They're a point ahead of Arsenal. They still have a game more to play than Arsenal do. But we just want to take a look at their schedule, what's ahead for them, Janusz, right now. Go from left to right here, and this is what we're looking at. Obviously, at the end of that as well, we've got the FA Cup final. When you look at this, what stands out to you as a potential concern in Manchester City's run-in?
Nothing. The only thing that stands out to me is Real Madrid against Manchester City. Really, I mean, nothing else. With the squad as deep as they are right now, with everybody healthy, Phil Foden's getting minutes. I suspect he's going to be getting more minutes. It's just a rotation policy from Pep Guardiola. How is he going to treat the next two games against West Ham and Leeds United ahead of that game against Real Madrid? We already saw what he did in the last game. No Kevin De Bruyne, no Bernardo Silva, 2 players that are absolutely essential to any success that Manchester City will have for the rest of the campaign in the Premier League and to win the games against Real Madrid. So I suspect you're going to see a fairly strong side against West Ham. I think Bernardo Silva will come back. If there's any doubt about De Bruyne because of his issue, I don't think you're going to see him there. And against Leeds is going to be a rotated squad, something that he's done recently. He knows how to do it. He's done it, right? Because you saw Sheffield United, a big game in the FA Cup where he rotated to make sure that his players are ready at the time.
Riyad Mahrez just comes in and scores a hat-trick.
Scores a hat-trick and he doesn't play, right? I mean, it's incredible. So
there's still more than that, though. Obviously, there's Chelsea, Brighton and Brentford to then round out the Premier League season after those Real Madrid fixtures. Chelsea, Brighton, Brentford, anything there that stands out to you?
Yeah, I think that a lot of it will depend on the momentum. If Manchester City are going to continue winning game after game after game, and I think a lot could, you could look at a sort of a setback, right? I mean, how do they deal with the setback? Because I think they will be able to avoid a setback, no problem. I mean, if they drop points somewhere, even in the Premier League, I still feel that Manchester City are going to be the champions because I think that Arsenal are going to have another setback as well. So, who knows? I mean, Chelsea game is not going to be easy, and there's other fixtures for Arsenal who are now obviously dealing with this whole situation psychologically as well. So it's not just any given game, but say a terrible performance against Real Madrid, I suspect could change all that.
Okay, so obviously there's nothing taken away. Winning the Premier League title is an amazing achievement. Winning the FA Cup would be too. If Manchester City don't win the Champions League this year, will it be looked on as a disappointment?
Oh, absolutely. It will be. You have to say that. I mean, we're talking about the elite 1%, of clubs in the world who know that at some stage you have to confirm your dominance, not just in the Premier League, but sort of the squad that you have. And let's face it, when you add a piece like Erling Haaland that we've talked about, who has scored 50 goals in all competition, who has scored 34 goals, tying and breaking all kinds of records, and that's going to continue to happen, then you have to say to yourself that that going out would be a disappointment. Now, it's all relative, right? Because I am sure if Real Madrid wins this, I mean, everybody's going to be going crazy about Pep Guardiola, Manchester City, the amount of money they spend. And once again, it's a failure, this, that, or the other. But again, I'll look at it as a disappointment, not as a failure. And the reason I'm not going to look at it as a failure is that because if they go out, they're going to go against a champion of champions when it comes to the Champions League and in general, right? When you look at history of football, it has to come number one, two, or, it depends on your fandom, I suppose, right? The Barcelonas of the world, Manchester United, but Real Madrid is the best of the best. So if they were to go down against the defending champion, what they've won, and now, okay, help me out, 13 times, to me would be a disappointment. But what
if they go to the final and lose to one of the Italian sides?
Yeah, I think that would be, and again, with all the respect, right? I mean, Milan, when you're talking Champions League, I mean, you have to talk, Real Madrid, and Milan is right there, isn't it? So, Liverpool obviously
historically, yeah.
So historically, Inter is a massive club that has won that under Jose Mourinho as well. But I think given the quality where Milan are and Inter are, I think that would be a bigger disappointment, right? I mean, failure is such a big word, but I think this would have been the year. There would have to be some looking inside for Pep Guardiola, because if not now, when? And when you add pieces like that, when you have everybody at their best, when you have Kevin De Bruyne unplayable when he is there, right? When you have Erling Haaland, when you have Rodri, when you have all those pieces that we've talked about, and then you get to that final and you lose to Inter or Milan, I think, you say, wow, when is it going to happen? I mean, chances like that aren't going to be common over and over, even for a team like Manchester City.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis, and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.